So, hello and welcome to the next part of our life. Last time we did the drive moment where, we basically drove over all the way to Nevada with Kov and, picked up his stuff from his mother's place. So, yeah. And this time we will do the moment charity. Let's go. Cover pushed himself to his feet from where he had been bent down in the sand, stretching out his back and groaning softly. A tired breath slipped past his lips as he wiped his brow, looking over the shore. It looks great. He stood beside him, joining in the surveying of the sand that almost seemed to sparkle beneath the midday sun. The two of you had been out on the beach since sunrise, cleaning up and down the beach, looking for various debris, and the work had paid off. Using a hand to shield your eyes from the blinding rays, you glanced across the way where the other volunteers from let's just call it Orca, were gathered. They were easily recognizable by the Vivi's vests they wore. It looked like though everyone was about ready to wrap things up for the day. It is satisfying to make stuff clean again. Like, there is a reason in middle, high school and all that we always had like a spring cleaning day where everyone had the privilege of scouting out the forests and stuff for as much trash as they could find, and the person, or the group rather, to gather the most trash bags would then get a reward. People certainly pulled out a lot of stuff out of those forests. And it was always a lot of fun, a lot more fun than usual. I was pretty sad. It was pretty sad looking when we got here. The beaches of the town were practically your own personal backyard, and you visited them a lot. It felt good knowing that you were helping take care of them. Too bad not everyone sees the joy in putting trash where it belongs. Oh well. Cover placed his hands on his hips, a pleased grin pulling at the corners of his mouth as he admired the work you both done. You had begun to realize during your time volunteering for the organization how seriously Cover took his service. It was easy to see that it was something important to him. That's a difficult question. I mean, I probably wouldn't volunteer for a good time. If you gotta volunteer for something, I will do it because I actually want to help. Let's just choose the first option. Seems the most accurate anyway. It was important that the ocean you grew up with was protected. It had always been a big part of your life, and you felt the least you could do was give back to it in some way. Rina. Nice work, Rina. Thanks. It's been a good year so far. It's crazy to think that's already time to push the big event. You let out the big breath, thinking about the formal dinner that the Orca organized every year. Being a completely fundraise-focused event for large donors, it was crucial for the organization's projects in the year to come. Oh boy. You had to be over 18 to attend, so this was your first opportunity to actually see it in person. All you had heard about it so far was that it was a prim and proper occasion with speeches and everything. Oh boy. You didn't know what else to expect from it, so you weren't a part of the group who planned the evening. Before the big night came around, the volunteers would have to sell the tickets for it, and that's where you would be helping. I would be curious, but also nervous. but I think mostly nervous since it's like the first time. If it had been something I had been every year, then it wouldn't have been. Then it would be like, oh nice, this time again. Like Christmas party with where I spent my free time. You looked down at the sand shyly, twisting your fingers together. It was going to be fancy and full of important strangers. The worst combination. I can agree with you that it's part of the program though. I just don't feel excited about attending a super formal meal with proper etiquette and stuff, you know? I do not know anything about etiquette. I'm the person who goes to a pizza restaurant and eats the pizza with her bare hands, so you do not want to expect etiquette from me. I don't know it. He threw his arms around to the side, making a bit of a show at how ridiculous it seemed to him. I've got sands all over my room, and only one nice shirt. And I go barefoot pretty much everywhere I can. I'm gonna be so out of place. Fancy does not equal fun. I don't want to worry about manners. What if they have more than one fork, like in the movies, and I have to pick up the right one? What am I supposed to do then? You ground at the thought, dragging your feet through the sand while Covers chuckled at the thought. A small beeping noise came from Covers' pant pocket, and he pulled it out and glanced at the screen. Huh? It's the organizers. They've sent a text to the group. Time to call it a day here. Alright, ready to head to our next activity? Cover tucked his cell away eagerly, turning to you. Let's head over and drop the trash bags off at the trunks. We can drive back and join the ticket team. We've got to be there pretty soon to relieve them. With a stretch of the shore this long, the plan was to switch places with the other teams who had been pushing the tickets for the fundraising dinner halfway through. It would be a full day of work, but it was Orca's largest event of the year, and all hands were on deck to make sure it was a success. High five. Cover's palm slapped solidly against yours, and he smiled at you crookedly. You collected the trash bags spread along the way together, heading across the beach to hoist them into the trucks before heading off to the next job. The drive back to your neighborhood and making your way to the shopping street was fairly quick, though Cover stressed a little about being late. Luckily, he was able to find a parking spot nice and close to where you needed to be. You jumped out of the car and quickly went towards where you knew the group would be. Finally reaching the stall that was set up to sell tickets, you stopped for a moment to catch your breath. That was quite a flurry of activity. It would be your job for the rest of the afternoon to help sell tickets for the fundraising dinner, and looking around the street you saw that there were plenty of potential buyers out today. That would hopefully help move the tickets along. The stall itself was simple, a portable table with a few plush sea animals as decorations and a banner struck across the front. There were 2 volunteers who were already packing up and getting ready to head off to the beach. They gave both of you a friendly smile as you arrived. Hey Cov, Rina, how things go at the beach? It was good, the place is looking great. We're lucky to have a 2-for-1 when it comes to you guys. Cover cleared his throat awkwardly from beside you. And you notice his cheek flushing pink. Come on, we're not that clingy with each other. We are. We indeed are, Cove. Ah, god damn it. You could tell that they weren't trying to embarrass you on purpose, but you wished they hadn't said anything at all. The volunteers made room for you and Kov behind the table, while they circled around to the front of it. Thanks for coming for a shift. We'd better make this quick so we can head off to the next place. No problem. What do you need us to do? We're ready for whatever is needed. One of the volunteers handed you a clipboard with the details needed to sell tickets, while the other tossed a set of keys to Kov, which she caught with ease. Those are the money box and supply kit. Make sure to keep them on you at all times. Aside from handling the cash for the tickets, there's also a form on the clipboard for the guests to fill in their info. That way we know how many tickets we've sold and who will be attending the event. There's a small script beneath that if you get stuck for what to say, and that's about it. Pretty simple, huh? Ah, wrong voice, but whatever. I think we've got this. Satisfied you knew what you were doing, the volunteers said their goodbyes and started walking away, leaving you and Kov to manage the stall alone. The keys jingled in his hands as Kov waved them off before he stuffed them into his pocket of his pants for safekeeping. You gave them a small wave goodbye as they left. Once the volunteers were out of sight, Kov dropped down into a chair behind the counter with a sigh. We've made it here just in time. It's cool we traded places with nothing happening. They might have been late getting to cleanup duty. He leaned back in his seat, getting fully comfortable in the space, and gave you a small smile. Why would you keep standing? It was just a simple plastic chair that squeaked when you sat on it, but it gave you a good view of the street. I would probably be tired. I am very often tired, sad to say. It had already been a busy morning, and you were beginning to feel the after effects of spending too much time in the sun. Cover rummaged around the station a little, picking up a stuffed toy orca and holding it up in front of his face. You had to admit that it was pretty cute, with its big bulging eyes and oversized flippers. Setting it back down on the top of the table, Cover moved on to check out the rest of the stall, finding a cooler stashed beneath the table. When you pulled it out and opened the lid, you could see that it was filled with half-melted ice cubes, and above a half a dozen bottles of water. Grabbing one of the plastic bottles, he unscrewed the cap and took a long drink. You watched the condensation running along the side and onto his fingers. Do you want one? Cover set his water on his side on the table before pulling out another, holding it out towards you. Why not? Thanks. After opening up, you took a drink and let out a satisfied sigh. You hadn't realized how thirsty you had been, and it was always good to stay hydrated indeed. The two of you got settled in easily, and you took the chance to look over the paperwork on the clipboard. Cover joined you, leaning over your shoulder to get a better look. Seems like pretty standard stuff. He muttered and you nodded quietly. It had general info about the event and the work you had needed to do at the stall, as well as the amount of tickets sold thus far and the number remaining. Cover tapped a finger on the counter as he read quietly over the notes and muttering a few things every now and then. You couldn't fully hear. He seemed content to be there, and you were sure that the afternoon would pass by quickly. When he glanced out towards the crowd and made a small sound, you followed his line of sight to see a potential supporter was on the way over to the booth. I would feel anxious. I am not good with customer service, and I will never be glad to do it. It wasn't always easy for you to do things like this, especially when those things required talking to strangers, but you had to remind yourself that you were doing it for a reason. Taking a deep breath, you made eye contact with the customer and gave them a small smile. Time passed as the two of you managed the stall. and as people approached, your sales pitch would either have them asking for a ticket or two, or heading off and mumbling, maybe next time. All in all, you managed to sell a decent amount of tickets, and you could tell that Cover was happy with the outcome. As the afternoon drifted along, 6 p.m. arrived, time to pack everything up and head home for the evening. Your work with Orca was far from over, but right now there was only one thing left to focus on, attending the actual event. Poof. Oh, but when it's such a formal event, you would need time to like dress up and stuff. I would need to actually do my makeup. Oh. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. Let's get Liz to help us. Cover can be on the speakerphone. You were currently in the midst of picking out an outfit, which Liz was helping you with, while Cover gave his input from the phone. Of course, Cover couldn't see any of the items you and Liz were choosing between them, but he was trying to help all the same. The event had strict guidelines, and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code, oh boy. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. I mean, it's not bad to dress up sometimes, but not to a formal event. More like, if it's your choice to dress up to the nines, then it's fun, but if you have to, then it's not fun. But you're gonna do what you're gonna do. It was going to be quite a long evening, so you wanted to make sure you were dressed comfortably, while sticking to the letter of the code. Your nose winkled in thought as you riffled through the options, silently weighing the pros and cons of each. You don't need to get too in your head thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. Whatever you go with, it will be yeah. You needed to be happy and comfortable with whichever choice you made. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over the options as one last time. It was time to decide on an outfit and quick. I mean, I'm not choosing to dress up, so button-down shirt and pants. Or a blouse. A blouse. Liz nodded in approval, clapping hands together satisfied. Finally, we're making some progress. That sounds like it would be totally fine. I'm wearing just a shirt with buttons and slacks, personally. Standing in front of your mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. I don't need accessories. And with that, let's ask Liz. I can't do shit. Leaning up in front of the mirror again, you spoke over your shoulder. Do you think you could help with some makeup for tonight? Absolutely. I'll show you everything I know. You're welcome for that. Thank you. With that, Liz really got into gear. She worked deftly to apply all the details without holding you up too long, while keeping you informed on what was happening to your face. Finally, you were dressed. It had all come together. Okay, just gotta change my shirt and then I'll be in the car. See you in a minute. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling at her lips. You look very nice, Rina. I do look good, don't I? Thank you. And thanks for helping me out. I'm sure it wasn't easy. Liz laughed softly and ruffled your hair, but only barely, not enough to actually mess it up. You've got that one right. But you know I'm here whenever you need it. Liz wiped a pretend tear away from her finger, sniffling dramatically. Oh, precious Rina, you really are grown up. It happened in the blink of an eye, when I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you towards the door. Alright, time to get downstairs, your special boy awaits. You carefully headed down the stairs into the living room, where your moms were waiting for your appearance. It makes me so sad that they're aging. Can't they be, like, forever young? As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look wonderful, Rina.
Nice.
And very mature, too. I know, right? They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. I probably would be like, really? Are we gonna do this now? Is this necessary? Liz came over to you and smirked as if she was reading the very thoughts in your head. You've got to get used to it one day, Rina. You're the baby of the family, after all. Ma came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you, and then a third. How is there so much space around me? Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. I hope you have so much fun tonight. We won't wait for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With a last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Stepped out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently, and looked out across the street. Carver was standing there in the street. His eyes met yours immediately, and if he had been watching your house for the moment you would come out, he smiled bashfully. Hey, Rina. Hi. You took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though it didn't feel overly posh. It made sense for him, and was honestly a sight for sore eyes. He was always beautiful to you. Oh, that's mushy. That's mushy as hell. He looked over you as well, a subtle blush creeping over his face as he quickly cleared his throat and averted his gaze. He seemed to be struggling to find something to say, rubbing at the exposed part of his arm awkwardly. Thank you for coming with me and for dressing really nicely for this. Your outfit, it's good. Better than good, really great, I guess. Something else? So yeah. Oh no. 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 You look very nice too. You glanced over him from head to toe, noting that his shirt, pants and shoes were all very shiny and new. Very nice indeed. He ducked his head a little to hide his expression, but you didn't need to see it to know he was pleased that you said so. Thanks. Then he shook his head, glancing back towards the garage and throwing a thumb over his shoulders and spoke. We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yep, let's go. You headed over to Cover's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. The event was being held at a place you had never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cover navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there you were met with the task of finding a parking spot, of course. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already showed up and claimed the spaces. Eventually, you found a suitable place before realizing it required payment. Cover covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Ah, yes. Parking. Despite the small hold-up, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirm you were on a guest list, before being shown into the dining area. Oof. It's pretty, but it's really formal, yeah. Cover whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. I mean, it does look way too formal, but that doesn't mean that it looks bad. Your lips parted in a wondrous smile as you took in the decorations and the guests all dressed up to the nines. Cover met your eyes with a similar look in his eyes. You got the impression that he felt the same way about it all. The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din of the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. They approached you both in greeting, giving you a welcoming smile and a hello. Well, they probably won't be having us bright, so I can just do whatever I want, right? Cover, Rina, we're glad to see you could make it, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen.
Of course.
Definitely, I wasn't gonna miss it. Thrilled to have made it. The place looks amazing, it's so nice to do something like this. Well, thanks for being part of the team. You're always welcome to help us out with activities whenever they come up. Thank you. Covers shrugged and eyes starting around the place with an awkward look.
So...
I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding through in between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. Cover approached various people as you wound your way through the guests. You managed to broach new conversations as well. You weren't so good in social situations yourself, so mostly followed Cover around and joined in on his conversations. Luckily, everyone there that night was polite. The sound of a microphone cackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cover looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't everyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some information about Orca, which you suppose was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. Then she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen. Cover's name was one of the first to come up. His chest puffed up in pride at that. Your name then came up a little further down the list. You were smiling from ear to ear at the mention. As you continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself, and tapping his fingers over the tops of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. I mean, why not be excited for him? He had worked so hard to make this event happen, was the least that he deserved. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over at the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Everyone who had included a special deity note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version. There were also a small basket of bread set around the table. I am always the type of person who eats the bread. Carver wolfed down his salad before munching onto a breadstick, quietly devouring that as well. I hope the next part comes out soon and is bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hands mid-air, he quickly pulled back and rested on his lap before taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. Hey, did you like the salad? I mean, they will probably have several courses. It was alright. I had better. His gaze remained purposely tunneled onto you, as if he was trying not to even think about what the rest of the table might be doing. Pick up the breadstick and give it to Cover. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Cover spoke gently as he took the bread from your hand, looking choked up at your reassurance. I'm always amazed at how people can eat a lot. Like in Christmas dinner I also only get like a third of the portion my friends get. So... He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. It wasn't much longer until the main course arrived, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. I guess if I have the choice between chicken and steak, I guess I would go for steak. It was nice that you had been given the option of how you liked your steak cooked, and the meal on the plate in front of you seemed perfectly to your taste. Ooh, the organization on that must have been interesting. My regards to the cooks and servers for keeping all of that in mind. Cover had gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. It is something like... I would say something like that, I guess. He retorted without even looking up from the dish. Most of the people here can do CPR, so it'll be fine. You shook your head in amusement as you continued fervently eating at the same pace. Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert. A lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white with bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artistry. You turned to Cover to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Ah, yes. The luxus food which always is puny. And then you have restaurants who for a little money give you so much that you can eat it twice. Like the Chinese restaurant we often order from on the weekends. They always give us so much, it's incredible. It's impossible to eat all of it in one go, it's impossible. So we always have some for later. Digging into the dessert, it took him only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. Unimpressed, Hare settled over him as he sat back into his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. We can get more dessert later. You gave him an encouraging smile. He looked over at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. It was just really good, that's all. No, it's gone. But I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he really was fine. You want my dessert? You pushed the dish towards him, and his eyes widened in surprise. He looked down at the dessert and then back at you, as if wordlessly asking if you really were sure. My stomach does always have space for dessert, but I do not need it. It's okay, you can have it. He hesitated a moment more before pulling the sorbet in front of him. A small smile tugged at his lips.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rina. You're welcome. He scooped up a spoonful of the treat and put it in his mouth, humming happily. You felt satisfied knowing that he enjoyed much more than you would. You leaned back into your chair, looking around quietly. After a moment or two, you felt Cover giving you a sidelong glance. He then took another spoonful of Fox Ocean and held it out for you. Your stomach began to flutter, not from the prospect of sorbet. I mean, if he is already doing this incredibly embarrassing thing, you gotta take him up on it, right? Leaning forward, you ate the dessert from a spoon, enjoying the bright, citrusy taste on your tongue. And the other people on the same... I forgot the word. It's not desk. The table. On the same table, it's table. The people sitting on the same table must be thinking, oh god, do they need to flirt like that right now in front of us? That's good. Yeah. You thought back on the way he used to be so terrified of sharing food with you, now he hardly batted an eye. It was always amazing when you were struck with how he'd grown, and how he'd stayed the same. Another person from the Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about the individual projects that the organization was working on, and the plans for the near future, as well as encouraging everyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cover bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion, and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cover caught your eye and smiled. You wonder what would happen now. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a waterlight effect around the room. Nice. The guests gushed over the ambience, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background, announcing that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When you glanced at Cover, his eyebrows had shot up and he mumbled quietly. I didn't know there would be dancing. I guess it would make sense now that I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donors were couples. Oof. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Carl let his gaze float over the small sea of guests, and he seemed lost in thought. A serious expression had settled on his face, making his eyebrows drip. Slowly he turned to you, though there was something cautious in his approach. Come on, boy, you can do it. You can do it. Do you... I mean, would you want to dance with me? That would be so cold. He already got his courage up and everything. Let's do him the favor and reply as gracefully as we can. His face lit up, and you could tell even beneath the dim light. He nodded firmly as he rose from his seat, though you noticed his hands were shaking at his sides. Oh no. You walked out to the floor together, hesitating a little before you turned and stood face to face. Cole had a hard time meeting your eyes, but he lifted a hand for you to take, unsure of what else he was meant to do. You tentatively accepted his hand, hoping yours wasn't trembling too much against his. It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. It was quite nice after that. Every time your eyes met Cole's, he would look away quickly, but he seemed to be enjoying the dance nonetheless. Thinking back, did I ever make eye contact with the people I danced in the dancing lessons? I don't think so. If I talked with people, then it wouldn't be like while making eye contact, because it would be just too much. Most of the time I was dancing with strangers anyway. Eventually he felt comfortable enough to speak. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if you meant just today, this summer, or your entire time knowing each other. But it didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Com had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try to reflect on all of it at once.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look and you beamed, knowing that could also mean many things. But from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here at this event. It was more than that. So am I. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had cover in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium of the stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with cover here was precious, at least the memories could be brought with you. Giving the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cover was so tall you could always see him, it was easy enough to not get separated. It's very useful to have tall friends when you're on a convention. You can always find them again. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cover's car across its expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over, just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourself back in your neighborhood. Carver pulled the car into his driveway and put it in the park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down the road, Carver coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together as though he had suddenly thought better of it. If he wants to say something... There was an unusual atmosphere hanging about. It was hard to know what to say. Give his hand, pet him, pet his head. He wrinkled his nose a little, giving you a small smile. Night, Rina. With a last wispy smile, he leaned towards his front door, figuring you wouldn't linger in the streets much longer. You crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see he was doing the same, holding his front door open but waiting for you to go inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your houses, locking the doors behind you. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. Now that you're finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in darkness, before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build-up to the event had felt like so much, now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. As unconscious crept up to you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you would get to experience next. And then you were taken away from the dreams right into reality by a sound. Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be a part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you had another noise. It was tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was a tapping that came from your window. He climbed the house again. Let him in. You extricated yourself from your bed, yawning. You stretched your arms and then made your way towards the window. There was another tap right before you arrived. When you pulled it wide open, Cover was indeed there. You had not been surprised to find Cover awkwardly crunched on your window hedge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cover hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean or if he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Even given that Cole was normally off thumbs, he looked off balance, significantly more than usual. Cover smiled sheepishly. Hi, Rina. Nice to see you, Romeo. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now, he was holding something. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes. Twisting around to see the back of his pants, he caught you looking and shrugged. I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't gonna be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped together hands where you could see them. But then, something happened, and, well, I have something I want to show you. Cover grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute. Ooh. Carefully sitting inside was a tiny yellow light. It blinked off and then on, again. A firefly. Delicately he moved his hand closer to you, so you could see the creature better. They're back. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by his insect companion. Remember the first time I caught one? I always will. I could barely manage anything because of that neon pink cast I was stuck with all summer. You were still stunned by what was happening, but couldn't help snickering when Cover did. It was thanks to you that I finally held the firefly in my own hand. I'm glad I could help you. Honestly, I didn't think I would see them this year. I don't know why, it's just they were kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. The fact that his first thought after discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Carver opened his eyes, but he looked away, not meeting yours.
It's nice.
It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back, I can see them again. It's And then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about them. You felt a warmth in your heart. Carver looked at your face. His smile now fragile. It makes me think about the two of us. We're together, then we say goodbye, and then we're together again. Day after day, year after year, and even if our time apart gets longer, it doesn't make it forever. Rina, I'll always be there whenever you want to see me. Oof! You are giving me choices. Oh. I have the feeling if I don't step up soon, this they won't end well. Honestly. So maybe I really should put a foot down by choosing the first option. Oof. But stuff like that is difficult, you know? But I guess it doesn't have to be interpreted like that, you know? Let's just see how it goes. Your heart started to pound. The harsh beat drowned out all the other sounds. You stared at him with a firm gaze. You both had known each other for so long. You knew you were such good friends. You cared about each other so much. Although your feelings had changed, that didn't mean they hadn't grown from a strong foundation. It was hard to take the step to become something else, but this was it. You weren't going to keep your feelings to yourself any longer. Ganbatte, MC-chan. I will cheer for you for doing something I could never do. Carver's expression shifted to something concerned. His brow was furrowed as he waited for your response. There was something fragile there, unsure. We should be a couple already. You are giving me choices. Choices. But would the first two be understood? But honestly, I would not be able to. Like, no, impossible, impossible. I think this fits pretty well with what he said before. He understood, he did, oh my god. You place a hand on your chest, hyper aware of how nervous you were as you waited for him to respond. Come on, yes! That's the expression I want. That's a very nice facial expression. Carver froze up, face stuck on the shocked expression. But you noticed a slight tremble travel through his body as he went dark red. He swallowed hard.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, indeed. His eyes... his eyebrows furrowed, and he openly struggled with words. He made several false starts, unintelligible pieces and parts of thoughts. Finally, his voice cracking all the way, he got something out. Really? It's okay? You like me? You want to be with me? Let me take a screenshot of this. It was like he could barely process it. Oh no, he starts to cry. Oh my god. As if he had never thought reality would let him have this. Come. I was the one who created this will they won't they, so... He started sniffling. I'm just so glad He scrubbed at his eyes. His voice went soft then. I thought I was ruining everything. I felt so bad. After we've been like this for that long, how could I ask you to change it? But I couldn't stop myself from wanting to. If this isn't just me, if you feel that way too. Do not hit my headphones, myself. His arms faltered, causing the firefly to fly off. He recentered himself, looking into your green eyes. Rina, if I can, I would like to be your boyfriend, oh god. I would like it a lot. I can't think of anything I would like more. His lips quirked into a shy smile as he let out a laugh, so eerie it was nearly a cough. Finally! Yeah, being paralyzed fits well. Your heartbeat still hadn't slowed. Was it hot in here? Well, it was summer, but that didn't help you much. Jump into his arms. No. This feels appropriate. You couldn't bear to look at him. Your fingers came over your eyes almost unconsciously. You couldn't tell what he was doing, but chuckled affectionately. When you looked into Corvus' face again, his smile was sparkling bright, much more so than the firefly he had brought you. His eyes prickled with tears and he sniffled, but you could recognize equal joy taking over him. You both were happy together. You were together and happy. Wipe away his tears. You carefully brushed aside the tiny water drops with your thumb. Corvus bashfully leaned into your caress. He ducked his head with a childish giddiness and peeked at you out of the corner of his eye. Thanks for waiting for me. It was agonizing. Yeah, it definitely was. It was definitely a wait. Oh, we can be so mean. Choices. You were worth it. Rina. We're gonna have to tell everybody about this, aren't we? Your moms, my parents, Liz, Terry, Miranda, everyone? I don't think they will be surprised. He smiled at you with an unabashed preciousness. You figured that even without your history, if anyone caught Corvus looking at you like that, it would be obvious exactly how he felt. His openness of character had some truly delightful benefits. You must have been making an expression equally as affectionate because you began to fluster again. He made some stuttering chuckles and then quieted down. His mouth forcefully stayed closed. You both took a moment to process. After 10 years of being together, you were officially a couple now. Hooray! Corvus looked into your eyes with a soft, slightly shy expression. There was hope in his smile. Do you want to go to the hill with me? I bet there's still fireflies. Yeah. Carver brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful. So how should we leave? We could just try the door. We don't have to do the window thing, but maybe that would bother your family? You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw you going on a midnight firefly catching trip. You would be sure to avoid that. Let's make it extravagant and leave from the window, just because we can. Let's go through the window. Carver nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you would run into another soul outside. Carver would be way overdressed and you were still in your jammies. You let Carver go first. He stepped back into the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along and soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Carver shakily climbed down to the fence and held it tightly with a death grip. He hesitated for a moment and then let himself fall to the ground. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words up to you where you were waiting.
Are you okay?
Do you want help? Would be nice, yes. I actually have a fear of heights, now that I remembered. You got to the edge and let Carver spot your descent. He grabbed you on about halfway down and brought you to rest firmly on the ground. Carver gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you risked speaking yet. You briskly snuck behind the house and up to the old white poppy hill. And Carver was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects trickling here and there with the pale yellow light. Carver let out a contented sigh, finally able to relax and full. He strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Carver plopped into his bag. He paid no mind to smacking his formal attire in the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. Let's do the same. You sat down first and then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up at night. You can get a little closer. He was warm in contrast to the chilly ground. Carver cuddled closer in return, tucking his arms up near your shoulders. I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass trains. He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. I don't know, I hope not. His smile bent a little and it went silent between you. The only sounds between the rustling of barks and the breeze, and the faraway cratters of waves on the sea. You couldn't help but reflect on what happened only a brief time earlier. Between this and your room, this almost felt like a different world. Was it even real, what happened between you two? You could almost be convinced it wasn't, and that you never actually stopped dreaming. You stole a glance at Carver. He caught you and blushed. That little reddening reassured you. Carver remembered the same as you. What you had was real. Dancing along the fireflies would be amazing. Should I play into that super romantic trope? Should I? Oh, come on, let's do it. Would you wanna dance with me? Carver stared at you in shock at the invitation. Understandably, he had not expected that. You felt obliged to try to say more. Before it's over. His mouth fell open a little. You could tell he recognized your words. He had used the same on you many years ago. His eyebrows crinkled and he smiled speechless. You got up and brushed off your clothes as best as you could. A pesky blade of grass tried to stay stuck to your leg. Carver did likewise, wiping his hands on his pants, like always. You faced across at each other, and suddenly the prospect of what you were doing became more real. Kava hesitated a moment as you both tried to decide what move to make now. He smiled as he rubbed one arm around your waist and the other across your back. He pulled you closer, near enough so that your bodies were touching. Oof. Then you began to sway together amid the floating lights. Despite the lack of music, you found a rhythm to your movements, back and forth. Snip to the side and slide. It was relaxed and freeing. Your eyes never strayed from one another. For a time, you just existed in the moment, holding each other close and enjoying being together. The hour grew late, and the fireflies mostly dispersed, until only a few stragglers remained. Then, even as they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Kava and your thoughts. Kava stole a second to release the words that had been filling his head during the quiet.
I'm so glad.
You have the best facial expressions in moments like this. I'm so glad I get to be with you. You felt a great deal of happiness. Kava's expression was completely open, honest, and full of sincerity. He meant every word. No matter how much it didn't seem real yet, it was. It felt as though this was a night that would never end, but you knew it would have to, all too soon. You were only grateful to have been a part of it. These were moments to truly treasure. You would never let yourself forget them. Certainly. Oh, most certainly. And that also took an entire hour, so... I will end this part here. This was, very, This was... I guess I accidentally broke the will they won't they by making the first step. I did want for Kava to confess first, but if he didn't at the end of step 3, I would have been so sad. And it's certainly something you can miss, therefore... Welp. It doesn't feel real now, but... this is how it is now. So, I will end the part here. Next time we will go through the moment of talks. So, until then, bye!